It was in the 16th century, on a cold autumn day. In the old city of London, a boy was born to a poor family of the name of Candy. The family did not want this one. On the same day, another English child was born to a rich royal family of the name of Tudor, who wanted him very much. All England wanted him. People talked only about the new baby, a Tudor, Prince of Wales, who lay in the nice little bed and did not know that all England wanted him so much. But there was no talk about the other baby, Tom, who was lay in his dirty rags and did not know that nobody wanted him. A few years passed. London was 1500 years old, and it was a great town. The street where Tom's family lived was called Court. It was dirty, and the houses were of wood, with small windows. Tom's family lived in one room of the third floor of one of these houses. The mother and the father had a bed, but Tom, his grandmother, and his two sisters slept on the floor and covered themselves with rags. Bet and Nan were 15 years old. They were twins. They were always dirty and in rags, but they were kind-hearted girls. Their mother was like them, but the father and grandmother were very bad people. They often got drunk. They often fought each other and beat the children together. Father John was a thief and grandmother was a beggar, and they made the children beg. Every day Tom went out to beg in the streets. If nobody gave him any money, his father and grandmother beat him at night and sent him to beg hungry. But there were some good things in Tom's life. Among the people that lived in house, there was a kind old man who taught Tom a little Latin and how read and write. He also told him many stories about kings and princes. Tom liked to listen to his stories. He also read the books that the old man gave him. Tom was a clever boy. He knew so much, and he could do and say such interesting things. Children of a court liked to listen to the stories he told them. When the children played, Tom was always a prince, and the boys were lords. At night, when he lay in the dark on dirty rags, he forgot his hunger and his father's beating. He thought about kings and so on. They were clean and well dressed and lived in beautiful palaces. Tom wanted to be clean and well dressed too, but in the morning he had to go out in his rags to bed. At night he dreamed that he lived in palace among lords and ladies. Oh, how he wanted to see a real prince with his own eyes. This wish became stronger and stronger day by day. At last he could think of nothing else. One day Tom got up hungry and left home hungry. His head was full of his night dreams. He walked along the streets and he did not know where he was going. He passed many streets and suddenly found himself near the king's palace, Westminster. Poor little Tom, in his rags, came up to the gates and looked at the guards who were standing at each side of the gates. Then suddenly, through the bars of the gates, he saw a good-looking boy who was beautifully dressed. Oh, that was a prince, a living prince, a real prince. Tom was so happy to see him that he did not know what he was doing. He had his face against the bars of the gates. The next moment the soldier pushed him away and he fell down. The crowd that stood near began to laugh at Tom, but the young prince ran up and cried out, "Open the gates and let him in." The guard opened the gates and the little Tom passed in. "Come with me, boy," said the young Prince Ed. He took Tom to the beautiful room in the palace, which he called the cabinet. "What is your name?" asked the prince. "Tom Candy." "And where do you live?" "In court, sir." "Have you parents?" "Yes, sir. I have parents and grandmother and also twin sister named Nan and Bet." "How old are your sisters?" 15 years old, sir." The prince said, "I too have sisters. One of them, the Lady Elizabeth, she is 14, and my cousin, the Lady Grey, she is of my own age. They both are very kind to me, but the Lady Mary, my other sister, is not kind to anybody. She does not even allow servants to smile. Do your sisters not allow their servants to smile? Do you think that they have servants? Why not? Who helps them to dress in the morning and undress at the night?" "Nobody, sir," answered Tom. "Do you think that they take off their clothes at night and sleep without them like dogs? But have they only one dress?" "Of course, sir. They have only one body, so they have only one dress." The prince thought a little and then said, "Is your life very hard?" "No, not very. Only when I am hungry. But I have much fun too. In summer we play together, and we fight to see who is strongest, and we run to see who is the fastest. In summer we swim in the canals and in the river, and we push each other under the water." "Oh, I should like to do that too," cried the prince. "Tell me more about your life." "We dance and we sing near the river, we play in the water, and how pleasant it must be to play in the water. I should like so much to do it, to be clothed like you, to walk about without shoes, and to play in the water. Listen, boy, will you change your clothes for mine, just for a few minutes? Take off your clothes and put on mine. I shall put on yours. At last I shall be able to have the fun of your life for a few minutes." Later, the two boys, the pauper and the prince, stood side by side before a great mirror. They looked on each other, then at themselves, at the mirror, then at each other again. At last the prince said, "You see that we are very much alike. You have the same hair, the same eyes, the same face that I have." Suddenly he saw a bruise on Tom's hand. "Did the guard bruise your hand?" "Oh, it is nothing," answered Tom. "Yes, it is," cried the prince. "I shall punish that soldier. Wait here till I come back." He took something from the table and put it away. The next moment he was out of the room, running towards the gates of the palace. The guard saw him and opened the gates, and threw the prince out. So he fell down, and the crowd near the palace began to laugh. The prince got up and ran to the soldier, shouting, "I am the Prince of Wales, and I shall hang you." The crowd only laughed and closed around the little prince. They pushed him and beat him and drove him away from the palace, crying, "Way for His Royal Highness, way for the Prince of Wales." When the little prince was at last left alone, he looked about him and he did not know where he was. He rested a few moments, then went on and soon came to a large square with only a few houses in it. Suddenly he saw a crowd of boys who were running, jumping, and playing ball. "Will you show me the way to the palace? I am the Prince of Wales, and I have lost my way." The boys shouted at this speech, and one of them said, "You are a beggar. That is what you are." The prince's face got red with anger, and he said proudly, "I am the Prince of Wales, and you are bad, cruel boys." Everybody laughed at these words, and one of the boys cried to his comrades, "Down on your knees, slaves! Greet your prince!" With cries and laughter, all the boys fell on their knees. The prince pushed the nearest boy with his foot and said angrily, "Take this. Before tomorrow comes, I shall hang you, all of you." The boys stopped laughing and got angry too. "Where are the dogs? Some of them cried, "Set the dogs on him!" In a minute the Prince of Wales was beaten by the boys and torn by the dogs. As night came, the Prince found himself in the part of the city that he did not know. He had many bruises on his body and on his hands. He was very tired. "Court, if I can find it, I am saved. Tom's family will take me to the palace, and they say that I am a real prince." It began raining. The wind rose, and the homeless prince still walked on and on. Suddenly a big drunken man stopped him and said, "Still out? Have you not brought anything home? If I do not break your neck, I am not John Candy." "Are you his father? Then let us go to the palace and you can take him home." "His father? What do you mean? I know very well that I am your father. Please take me to the king, my father, and he will make you rich. Believe me, I am indeed Prince of Wales." The man looked down at the boy, shook his head, and said, "You are mad, but a hard whipping will do you good." With these words he dragged the prince away. Tom, left alone in the cabinet, went up to the mirror and turned himself this way and that way before it. He wanted to be like Prince. Then he sat down on one of the beautiful chairs and thought, "If only my friends could see me." At the end of half an hour he began to feel restless. He was afraid someone may come and see me in Prince's clothes. As time went on, he became more and more nervous. At last he decided to run away and look for the Prince. He opened the door, and 6 servants and 2 young pages bowed low before him. He shut the door quickly and began to walk up and down the room, listening to every sound. Suddenly the door was opened by a page who said, "The Lady Jane Grey." A young girl, richly dressed, came towards him, but she stopped suddenly and said, "Oh, what is the matter with you, my lord?" Tom answered, "I am not a lord, but only poor Tom. Please let me see the prince, and he will give me back my rags. Oh, save me." The boy fell on his knees. The girl cried out, "Oh, my lord, on your knees, and to me." Then she hurried away from the room. So she told all these things to everybody on her way. The news was a terrible shock and spread in the palace like forest fire. "There is no help, there is no hope. Now they will come and take me." While he was thinking such horrible thoughts, groups of lords and ladies gathered in a large hall, saying to each other, "The prince is mad! The prince is mad! The prince is surely mad!" Then the lord came into the hall and said, "In the name of the king, let nobody listen to this foolish matter and talk about it." All talk stopped at once. In a few moments they began saying to each other, "See, the prince is coming." Poor Tom was slowly walking past low-bowing people. Great lords were walking in either side of him and behind him, the court doctors and the servants. At last Tom found himself in a large room. Before him he saw a very fat man who was lying in bed. He had a big face and cruel eyes. His hair was grey. There was silence in the room. This man was Henry, King of England. His face became kind and he began to speak. "Come to your father, child. You are not well." Tom went up to the king, full of fear. He took Tom's face between his hands and looked kindly. Then he said, "Do you know your father, the king? Do not break my old heart. Say that you do." "Yes, you are my lord, the king." True, true, all is well. Do not be afraid of me. Everybody loves you. You are better now. Your bad dream has passed. Oh, please believe me, my lord. I spoke the truth. I am the pauper. I am here only by mistake, but I am too young to die, and you can save me with only a little word. Oh, speak it, please, sir. To die? Do not speak so, dear prince. You shall not die. Tom fell on his knees, thanking the king. Then he said, May I go now? Of course, if you wish. But where will you go? I wanted to go home to my mother and sisters. Please let me go, sir. The king was silent for the moment. Then he said, with some hope in his voice, Perhaps he is mad upon this matter only. Let us talk to him, and we shall see. Then he asked Tom a question in Latin. Tom was able to answer him in the same language. The king was very much pleased and continued the examination. He put a question to Tom in French. Tom stood silent a moment, then said, I do not know French, your majesty. The king said, Come here, child. Put your poor head upon your father's heart. You will soon be well. Indeed you will. Then he turned to the lords and said, Listen to me. My son is mad, but it is not for long. He has studied too much. No books and no teachers anymore. He is mad, but he is my son, and he will be the king of England. Then he turned to Tom and said, Kiss me, my poor prince. What you are afraid of? Am I not your father who loves you? Now go with your uncle Lord Hertford and come back later. I want to rest now. Tom was brought to a large room and made to sit down. There were many men around him. He asked them to sit down else, but they only bowed their heads. Lord Hertford said in his ear, Please do not ask them to sit down, my lord. They must not sit in your presence. Lord Stuart came up to Tom and said, I have come with an order from the king, which I can tell only you and Lord Hertford. When the other men left the room, Lord Stuart said, The king says that the prince must not ever say that he is not the true prince. When he does not know what to say, he must ask Lord Hertford or myself, Lord Stuart. Well, the king has said, so I shall do it, answered Tom. Please do not read or study today, your highness. You must not be tired at the banquet. Tom was surprised. You have shown surprise, my prince. We are speaking of the city banquet which the king promised you 2 months ago. Do you remember it now? Tom's face got red. I am sorry to say that I have quite forgotten about it. At this moment, Lady Eliza and Lady Jane came into the room. As the young girls passed, Lord, he said in a low voice, Please do not show surprise if the prince forgets anything. At the same time, Lord Stuart was saying in Tom's ear, Please, sir, do not forget King's wish. Do not let them see that you have changed much. Many times during the talk with the ladies, Tom did not know what to say, but it seemed that nobody noticed it. Then Tom said to the little ladies, Will you go to the banquet this evening? Yes, we will. And Tom was very much pleased. When the ladies went away, Tom said, May I go into some corner and rest? You may do whatever you wish to, your highness. So Tom was taken into another room. His first wish was to have a cup of water that he saw, but a page dressed in silk fell on one knee and offered it to him on a golden plate, and so it was each time that he wanted to do something himself. At last he thought, I am afraid they will breathe for me else. He lay down to rest, but he couldn't sleep, for his head was full of thoughts and his room too full of people. At about 1 o'clock, Tom was dressed for dinner. Then he was taken to the larger room where a table for one person was ready. The room was full of people. All of them knew that the prince was mad and that they must not show any surprise if he did anything strange. Poor Tom ate with his fingers, but no one smiled. He looked at his napkin with great interest. Then he said, "Please take it away. I am afraid it will become dirty." The napkin was taken away without a word of protest. When he finished his dessert, he filled his pocket with nuts, but nobody paid any attention to that. Suddenly his nose began to itch. He looked first at one, then at another of the lords near him. They ran up to him and asked rapidly what the matter was. Tom said with tears in his eyes, "My nose is itching terribly. What shall I do?" Nobody smiled. Nobody knew how to help him. Tears began to run down his cheeks. At last he begged pardon of the people standing around him and scratched his nose himself. Nobody smiled, but all were sorry for the prince. At last our small friend was led to his cabinet and left alone. Then he remembered the nuts. He took them out of his pocket and soon was crunching them and feeling almost happy for the first time since he became prince. When the nuts were all eaten up, he found some books in a bookcase. Among them one about the etiquette of English court. He lay down upon a sofa and began to read it. When the Lord Chancellor came to the palace, he was brought in before King at once. The king said, "Is everything ready for execution of my enemy the Duke?" "First we have to seal the order for his execution, your Majesty." "Where is the great seal? You always keep it." "Oh no, your Majesty, you took it from me 2 days ago and gave it to his Highness, the Prince of Wales." "True, I remember now. Just go and take it from him." The lord hurried to Tom, but soon he came back without the seal. "My lord, I am very sorry, but the prince is still ill and can't say anything about the seal." "Do not ask him for it again." "Oh, my poor child, my heart is so sad. I love you so much." He closed his eyes and was silent for a moment. "Don't wait for the great seal. We can't find it. Go and take the small seal. My enemy, the Duke, must die tomorrow. Tomorrow you must bring me his head." John Candy was dragging the prince into the car. The prince continued to struggle for freedom but could do nothing. Soon he found himself in the dirty room. There were 2 girls and 2 women in it. John said to the older woman, "Just listen what he says and help me to give him a good whipping. Repeat your foolish words again. Name your name. Who are you?" The little prince's face got red with anger. He raised his head and said, "I told you before, I am Edward, Prince of Wales." The old woman and John began to laugh at his words, but Tom's mother ran up to the prince, fell on her knees, and put her hand upon his shoulders. "Oh, my poor boy, your foolish reading has made you mad. You are breaking your mother's heart." The prince looked into her face and answered, "Your son is not mad. Let us go to the palace where he is, and the king, my father, will let him go home with you." The woman began to cry, covering her face with her hands. One of the girls said to her father, "Let him go to bed. Tomorrow he will be himself again. He will beg and will not come home without money." "Show me what you have brought today," John said to Edward. "I tell you the truth. I am the king's son," answered the prince. John got so angry at these words that he stopped laughing at once, and heavy blows began to fall upon Edward's shoulders and face. The grandmother went out of her corner to help her son to beat the boy. When they finished with him, they gave the girls and their mother a good beating too, because they had been kind to Edward. "Now to bed, all of you. I am tired," said John. When everybody was asleep, the young girls came to where the prince lay, and covered him from the cold with rags. Then the mother came to him also. She brought him a piece of bread, but he lost his appetite and could not eat. Last he fell asleep. Tom's mother lay thinking what had happened. There was something strange in his manner. She couldn't tell what it was, but she felt that his speech and manners were different from Tom's. Was it possible that the boy was really not her son? She decided to give him a trial. This trial will show me whether he is my son or not. When Tom was suddenly awakened or was frightened by something, he always covered his eyes with the back of his hand. She lit her candle and came up softly to the sleeping boy. Then suddenly she brought the candle to his face and struck the floor near his ear with her hand. The boy's eyes opened at once, and he looked around in surprise. But he did not cover his eyes. The poor woman did not know what to do. She went up to the boy several times and repeated the experiment. Again and again he woke up and looked around in fear. Each time he did not cover his eyes with his hand. At last she went to the bed and fell asleep in tears. The prince woke up from the heavy sleep because John was talking to somebody. A man had come to the room. He told the family that they had to leave their house and run away because John had killed the man in a street fight. "They are looking for you now," he said. "If you want to save your life, run away." Very quickly the family gathered up their few things and left the house. As they were walking along the dark streets, the prince decided to run away. When they were turning the corner, he suddenly escaped. He ran and ran and ran until found himself near his father's palace. Told the guard to open the gates to him, because he is Prince. But nobody believed him, of course, and the crowd near the gates laughed at him. When he began to cry, the people liked it very much. They laughed at him very much and pushed him, but he repeated, "I am the Prince of Wales." Suddenly a man appeared. He was tall and strong, and his clothes were made of rich material, but very old. He said, "I do not know whether you are the prince or not, but I shall not allow them to laugh at you. I am Miles. I shall defend you." He took Prince by the arm, and they went away together. At that time Tom was going down the Thames on the royal barge Princess and asked him to sail with them. They wanted to give him some pleasure, to make him forget his strange illness. Suddenly the king's messenger appeared, and everybody stopped talking and looked at him in surprise. He came up to Tom and said loudly, "The king is dead." All the people who were there fell upon their knees, turned their heads toward Tom and shouted, "Long live the king! Long live Edward, King of England!" As Miles and Prince were going away from the palace, Edward also heard the cry, "The king is dead." It made him very sad, because he knew that now he was alone in the world. But suddenly he heard another cry, "Long live King Edward the Sixth." "Ah," he thought, "I am king now," and he felt proud. They came to the door of the inn where Miles lived. Suddenly they heard a voice. "Where have you been all this time? If you try to run from your father once more, I shall give you a good whipping." John was standing before them. "Is he really your father?" No, he is not. I shall not go with him. If so, stay with me, and you," he turned to the man, "you go your way, or I shall kill you." So John had to leave the little prince alone and go away with his angry face like a demon. Edward, with his new friend, entered the inn and went to the Miles room. It was a very poor room. There were only a bed, a table, 2 chairs, and a washstand in it. The little king went over to the bed and lay down upon it. He was very tired and hungry. "Please call me when supper is ready," he said, and fell asleep at once. Miles smiled and said to himself, "He uses my bed as if he owned it. He really imagines himself the Prince of Wales. But I like him, and shall take care of him. I shall be his brother. He needs a friend." A servant came in with a hot meal, put it on the table, and left the room. When Miles went over to the bed, Edward opened his eyes. "We shall have a nice supper now," said Miles. The boy got up and went to the washstand in the corner. He said, "I want to wash. Hold the towel for me." Miles smiled to himself, but took the towel and held it till the boy finished the washing. Then he went to the table, sat down, and wanted to eat his supper. Suddenly the boy said angrily, "Why are you sitting in the presence of the king?" "All right," thought Miles, "I shall pretend that I believe him. Let him imagine himself the king." "You call yourself Miles," said the prince. "Yes, sir. If I want to show that I really believe him, I must call him sir, and your majesty. I must play my part well. Tell me about yourself." So Miles told him his story. He was the son of the rich parents. His mother died when he was a boy. He had two brothers, Arthur and Hugh. He left home when he was very young because he had quarreled with his brother Hugo, and his father, who loved him better than other sons, turned Miles out of the house. He became soldier and took part in many wars. During the battle he was taken prisoner. 7 years passed, and then he came back to England. He did not know anything about his family and was traveling to Hendon Hall to see his father and his brothers. "Your story is very sad, Miles. You are a kind, brave man. You helped me when I needed help so much. I want to thank you and give you something for your kindness. Name your wish." Miles wanted to thank the boy and tell him that he did not want anything, but then he thought, "I must ask him to allow me to sit in his presence." So he fell upon one knee and said to the king, "Sir, I have one thing to ask of you. Will you allow me to sit in your presence?" Edward thought a little and then said, "All right, Miles, I will allow you, but your children and your grandchildren as well." Miles sat down and began to eat with great pleasure, saying to himself, "It was clever of me to ask him for that. Poor boy, the king of the kingdom of dreams." Soon the two comrades felt very sleepy. "Take off my rags," said the king. Miles took off the boy's clothing, saying to himself, "He has taken my bed again as before. What shall I do?" The little king said sleepily, "You will sleep by the door and guard it." How well he plays his part, thought Miles, and lay on the floor near the door. Soon both of them were asleep. At 12 o'clock Miles got up. He wanted to buy a suit for the boy. He went softly out and came back again in 30 or 40 minutes with the suit. "The inn and our breakfast are paid, and I shall have money to buy 2 donkeys for our trip. Now I shall wake him, dress him, feed him, and then we shall go. Please rise, my lord." But he doesn't answer. Maybe he is still asleep. Miles threw back the blanket, and what a surprise! The boy was not there. He looked about him and could not see the boy's rags anywhere. At that moment the servant entered the room with the breakfast. "Where is the lad?" cried Miles. The servant answered in a trembling voice, "When you left, a lad came and said that you asked him to bring the boy to you at once. He said that you were waiting for him at the end of the bridge. I brought the stranger here. He woke the lad and told him your wish. Your boy was angry, but put on his rags and went with the strangers." "Was he alone?" "Quite alone, sir." "Are you sure?" "Yes, I am sure." Think well. Maybe you have forgotten. Oh, yes, now I remember that at the bridge man came up to the boy. And then what? I saw nothing more. Miles ran down the stairs. He said to himself, it was the man who called himself his father. I have lost you, my poor little mad master. I shall look for you everywhere till I find you again. Miles hurried toward the bridge. He hoped to find Edward there. He looked at the people whom he met on his way, but without success. He walked up and down for several hours. No Edward. Night came and found him very tired and very hungry. He decided to go back to the inn and have supper. After supper he went to bed but could not sleep. He lay thinking and planning how to find the boy. He did not want to leave the inn. He was angry, but he went because he thought that Miles asked him to go. That same morning Tom opened his eyes when it was still dark. He lay silent a few minutes, then suddenly cried out happily, Nan and Bet, come here. Be quick, I shall tell you an interesting story. A voice near him said, What will be your commands, your majesty? Commands, oh poor me, who am I? Last night you were Prince of Wales. Today you are Edward, King of England. Tom hid his head among the pillows and said, almost crying, So it was not a dream. Oh poor me. He slept again, and after a time he had a pleasant dream. In his dream he went home quite happy. His dear mother kissed him and said, It is late. Perhaps you will get up, your majesty. Oh, they were not the words he was waiting for. He opened his eyes. It was not his mother, but the richly dressed first lord. He was standing on his knees near King's bed. The poor boy remembered that he was still a king. The room was full of lords. Then the ceremony of dressing began. After that, washing, then hair-dressing, and at last Tom was ready as pretty as a girl, in his beautiful clothes and cap. After breakfast, Tom was led to the throne room, where he had to busy himself with some question of state. His uncle Lord Hertford stood by the throne to help him if he needed his help. The work went slowly. Many state documents were read, and at last poor Tom said to himself, What have I done that I am shut here and made a king, and may not see the fields and the river and simple sunshine? Then his head dropped and he fell asleep. Everybody stood in silence around the sleeping child, and the business of the state stopped. In the afternoon Tom had a few moments to himself, and a lad of about 12 years of age was brought in to him. He came up to Tom and fell on one knee before him. Tom sat still and looked at the lad in silence. A moment. Rise, lad. Who are you? What do you want? The boy rose and said, You must remember me, my lord. I am your whipping boy. My whipping boy? Yes, my lord. I am Merlo. Tom did not know what to do. It seems to me that I remember you, but I cannot remember well, as I am ill. Oh, my poor master, cried the whipping boy, thinking to himself. Oh, it is true, he is mad, but I forget I must not notice that anything is wrong with him. I often forget many things these days, but pay no attention to it. Just tell me what you want. 2 days ago, when your majesty made 3 mistakes in your Greek in the morning lessons, do you remember it? Yes, I think I do. Your teacher promised to whip me for it. Whip you? Said Tom in surprise. Why did he want to whip you for my mistakes? Oh, my lord, you have forgotten again. He always whips me when you do not know your lessons. This is how it is. Nobody may strike the Prince of Wales. So, when you make mistakes, then I shall get the blouse. That is right. It is my work, and I get my wages for it. Tom looked at the boy and said, And have they beaten you, my poor friend? They were going to beat me today, but they did not eat because of the death of the king. Now you are no more Prince of Wales. You are the King of England, and I am afraid that you will not continue your studies. I guess you will burn your books and turn the teachers away. Then I am lost, and my poor sister with me. Lost? Why? My back is my bread. Oh, my lord, if you stop studying, you will not need any whipping boy, and I shall have no work. Do not turn me away. Tom was sorry for the boy. Rise, Marlowe. You will always have the post of whipping boy at the Royal House of England. I shall take my books again and study so badly that you will get money 3 times more than before. Oh, thanks, my dear master. Now I shall be happy all my days. Tom was clever enough to understand that Marlowe could be useful to him. He asked Marlowe to talk about the people in the palace and the lessons in the schoolroom. At the end of an hour he knew many things about, so he decided to talk with Marlowe every day. After Marlowe had gone, Lord Hertford came with some news for Tom. The Lords of the Council asked His Majesty to dine in public in a day or two in order to show everybody that he is all right. Lord Hertford wanted to instruct Tom, but to his great joy, Tom needed very little instruction. Seeing that his memory was so much better, Lord Hertford decided to ask Tom about the Great Seal. But Tom did not know what it was. What was it like, my lord? Asked Tom. Oh, he is still mad, thought Lord Hertford, and he began to talk about other things, trying to make Tom forget the seal. On the next day, Tom was taken to a large hall, where he always met great lords. He went to a window and looked out. Suddenly he saw a big crowd of men, women, and children. What is the matter? He called a page and sent him to find out what the matter was. In a few minutes the page came back to say that the crowd was following the woman and the child to execution for some crime. Tom looked out of the window at the poor people. At the moment he forgot that he was not the real king and gave the command, "Bring them here." In a few minutes some officers entered with the prisoners. "What have they done?" asked Tom. "Your Majesty, they have sold themselves to the devil. That is their crime." "Where was this done, and when?" "At midnight, at December, in an old church, your Majesty." "Who was present?" "Only these two, your Majesty, and the devil." "Then how was it known?" "Some people saw them when they were going to the church, your Majesty, and thought that something was wrong. Soon after that, the woman and the child, with the help of the devil, caused a terrible storm." Tom thought for a minute and then said, "Did this woman suffer from the storm?" "Yes, she did. She lost her house and they are homeless now." "Then I do not understand why she caused the storm from which she suffered herself. Is she mad? If she is, she doesn't know what she does." Everybody was surprised at the cleverness of King. The woman had stopped crying and was looking up at Tom with hope. Tom saw this and felt sorry for her. "How did they cause the storm?" he asked. "They took off their stockings, your Majesty." Now Tom was surprised. "How strange," he said. Then he turned to the woman. "Show us your power. I should like to see a storm." "Oh, my lord the king, I have no power." "Don't be afraid. Make a storm for me. Do this, and you will go out free with your child." The woman fell at his feet and cried that she had no power to make a storm. "I cannot do what the king wants." Tom repeated his command, but the woman only cried and said she could not do it. At last Tom said, "I think the woman is speaking the truth. You are free, good woman, you and your child. And now do not fear, take off your stockings. Make me a storm and you will be rich." The woman took off her stockings and her little girl too, but nothing happened. Tom was very sorry and said, "It is true, you have no power. Well, go your way in peace, and if the power comes back to you, do not forget to come and make me a storm." At that time Edward and the stranger walked for a long way. Then the king stopped and said, "Where are you taking me? I shall not walk on. I shall stop where I am. Miles must come to me, not me to him. Do you want to stay here when your friend is lying wounded?" "What? Wounded? Let us hurry then. Be quick, my friend." They came to an old farmhouse with a barn near it. They entered the barn. No Miles there. The king looked angrily at the boy and asked, "Where is he?" A laugh was answer. John, who had followed them all the way, stood before him. "So, you have run from your father?" "You are not my father. I do not know you. I am the king. If you have hidden my servant, find him for me, or I shall order to hang you." "You are mad, it is quite clear. I don't want to beat you, but if you continue to talk like that, I shall have to give you a good whipping. Do not forget that I have killed a man and can't stay at home. And I can't leave you there because I need your help. My name is changed now. It is Hobbs. And remember that your name is Jack now, not Tom. Besides, where are your mother and sisters? They did not come to place I told him. Do you know where they are?" "Don't ask me about your family. I do not know anything." The boy that had brought Edward began to laugh, but John, or Hobbs as he now called himself, stopped him. "Hugo, you must not quarrel with him. He is mad. Sit down, Jack, and rest a little." Hugo and Hobbs began talking together in low voice, and the king went to the corner of the barn as he wanted to be alone for a few minutes. He lay there for some time thinking how he could run away from. Then he fell asleep, and in his sleep he saw his palace and the lords and Tom, who sat on the king's throne. This thought made him so angry that he decided to hang Tom when he got back to the palace. Edward was awakened by loud laughter and many voices talking together. He opened his eyes and saw a big crowd of people in rags. From their talk, he understood that all of them were thieves and beggars. He also understood that John had been their friend for a long time. John told them how he had killed a man. The others began to tell their stories too. One of these stories was very sad. "I was a farmer," began a man whom everybody called Yokel. "I had a kind wife and nice children, but my old mother tried to earn her bread. She took care of sick people. One of them died, and the doctor did not know why. So, by English law, she was burned for a witch, and my children stood and looked how it was done. Great English law! Stand up, all of you, raise your cups and drink to the kind English law that killed an honest woman. Then I had to beg from house to house, and my wife and children. But the English law doesn't allow people to go hungry, so we were caught and whipped many times. Drink, all of you, to the kind English law which killed my wife by beating her. As I could not bear to see my children hungry, I begged again, and at last I was sold as a slave." "A slave! Do you understand that word? An English slave. I have run away from my master, and when I am found, the English law will hang me." Suddenly a loud voice was heard. "No, it will not hang you. I shall not allow it." All turned and saw the small figure of the little king who had come out of his corner. "Who is it? What is it? Who are you?" cried many voices. "I am Edward, King of England." "Ha ha ha ha!" Wild laughter followed, but the angry king cried out, "You thieves and beggars! This is how you thank your king?" The laughter grew louder and louder, and at last John shouted to the crowd, "Friends, it is my mad son. Do not pay any attention to him. He thinks he is the king." "I am the king," said Edward proudly. The crowd of drunken people liked his words very much. Many voices began to shout, "Long live Edward, King of England!" The little king bowed his head and said, "I thank you, my good people." The laughter grew even louder and louder. Somebody shouted, "Boo Boo the First, King of Wolves!" Soon the whole crowd was shouting, "Long live Boo Boo the First!" Before Edward could do anything, he was crowned with a tin basin. A dirty old blanket was put on his shoulders, and he himself was put on the throne, a barrel. Then all of them fell upon their knees and began to shout, "Oh, sweet king, King Boo Boo!" They laughed at him and pushed him and pretended to kiss his feet. Every day the king and Hugo went out to beg. One day Hugo stole some money from the pocket of a man who was passing by. But the man was quite swift, and caught Hugo by the hand, and soon a crowd gathered around them. The king saw his chance to run away. Soon the village was far behind him. He walked on and on until night came. He was so tired and hungry that he could not go on any longer. He was in the street of a village. He entered the first barn he saw. He lay down on the floor and soon fell asleep. In the morning he woke up because he heard children's voices. The barn door opened and two little girls came in. They looked at him in surprise. One of them said, "He has a nice face, and very nice hair too," said the other. "But his clothes are terrible. How hungry he looks." They came nearer, and the first girl asked, "Who are you, boy?" "I am the king." With wide open eyes they stood silent for a minute. "The king? What king?" "The king of England." The girls looked at each other, and then at him, then at each other again. "Did you hear him, Margery? He says he is the king. Can that be true?" "Yes, Priscilla, I believe him. He is the king." Then they began to ask him questions. They asked why he was so badly clothed and where he was going. He told them his story, forgetting even his hunger for the time. But when they heard how long he had been without food, they took him away to the farmhouse to give him something to eat. The girl's mother received the king very kindly. She allowed him to sit at the family table and eat with them. So he decided that he also must allow the woman and her daughters to sit in the presence of their king. When breakfast was over, the woman told the king to wash up the dishes. He thought that to wash wooden spoons and plates was very easy, but it was not, and he did it very badly. He did everything the woman ordered him to do very badly. He could not do anything well, and he did not want to stay with the peasant family. So, early one morning he left the farmhouse and took the first road out of the village. He tried to find his way to London, but soon he fell in the hands of John again. He brought King back to the band. The bandits tried to make him steal, but could not. He was sent out with Hugo to beg, but he did not want to beg. Hugo hated him for that. He planned to make him suffer for his pride. One day both boys were walking up and down the street of a small village. The king was thinking about his hard life and planning how to run away. There were no people in the street, but at last a woman appeared. She was carrying a large package in a bag. Hugo watched the woman for some time, and then he said in a low voice, "Wait for me here till I come back." And he followed her. The king thought, "Now I can run away." But it was not so simple. Hugo was behind the woman. In a moment he snatched the package and came running back. He covered the package with an old blanket which he was carrying on his arm. He threw the package in the king's hands and shouted, "Run after me with other people and cry, 'Stop thief!' but lead the people another way." The next moment Hugo turned round the corner and disappeared. The king threw the package angrily on the ground. The blanket fell off it just as the woman came back, with a crowd behind her. She seized the king with one hand, the package with the other, and began to shout, "He is a thief! Who stole my package?" The boy cried as he tried to free himself, crying out, "Leave me alone, you foolish woman! I have not stolen your package." A man from the crowd seized the king's hand and proclaimed, "I shall give him a good beating for a lesson." But suddenly another man said in a quiet voice, "The law will decide it, what to do with him, not you." The people saw a brave soldier. The cruel man let go the boy's hand. Everybody was silent. The king ran up to the soldier with shining eyes and cried out, "You have come in good time, Sir Miles." Suddenly a police officer pushed his way through the crowd and wanted to lay his his hand over King's shoulders. "Do not touch him, good friend. He will go quietly himself. Lead on, we shall follow," said Miles firmly. The officer and the woman with her package went in front. Miles and the king with a crowd followed them. When they come to the judge, the woman said that the boy had stolen her package, in which there was a little pig. "The pig cost me 3 shillings," she said. The judge looked at the woman and said kindly, "Do you not know, good woman, that when somebody steals a thing that costs more than 1 shilling, the law says he must hang for it?" The woman cried in a great fear, "Oh, what have I done? The poor boy must be hanged. I do not want that. What shall I do?" The judge simply said, "You can change the value of the pig, as it is not yet written down. Then let the cost of the pig be 8 pence. Miles was so happy that, to the king's surprise, he threw his arms around the boy and kissed him. Then the woman went away. The police officer opened the door for her and followed her out into the hall. Miles wanted to know why the officer followed the woman, so he went softly into the dark hall and listened. He heard the following talk. "Oh, woman, it is a good pig. I shall buy it. Here is 8 pence. 8 pence? It cost me 3 shillings. Then you told a lie. You said that its cost was 8 pence. Come back with me before the judge and answer for your lie, and then the lad will be hanged." "Oh, good man, say nothing more. Give me the 8 pence and let us forget the matter." The woman went away crying. Miles came back into the judge's room. The judge said some kind words to the king and sentenced him to a short term in prison. The king was so much surprised, he opened his mouth and was going to give the order to hang the judge, but Miles took him by the hand, and they quietly followed the police officer to the prison. The short winter day was nearly over. There were almost no people in the streets. A few men were hurrying across the square. They looked neither to the right nor to the left and paid no attention to the king. He, in the company of Miles and the police officer, was also crossing the square. Suddenly Miles laid his hand upon the police officer's arm and said in a low voice, "Wait a moment, good man. Nobody hears us, and I want to say a word to you." "I must not listen you, sir, and we must hurry. It is dark already." But Miles insisted. "Turn your back for a moment and pretend that you do not see. Let this poor lad run away." "How dare you say such a thing to me, sir? I shall arrest you." "Do not be too quick. Be careful. The pig you have bought for 8 pence may cost you your job." The poor police officer could not speak at first. Miles continued, "I like you, friend, and if you do what I am asking you to do, I shall not tell the judge what I heard in the dark hall." Then Miles repeated the talk with the officer and the woman had together in the hall, word for word. "Dear sir, do not go to the judge. Tell him nothing about this. I have a large family. I have wife and little children. What do you want of me, good sir? You must only pretend to be blind while I count slowly to 100. "Very well, go. I am blind. I see nothing." When Miles and the king were far, Miles asked his majesty to go to a certain place out of town and wait there. He himself went to the inn. Half an hour later the two friends met. The king was warm now, for he had taken off his rags and put on the suit which Miles had bought. When they had gone about 10 miles, they reached a village and stopped there for the night at a good inn. All was as before. Miles stood behind the king's chair when the king had his dinner, and dressed him when he was ready for bed. Then he lay down on the floor and slept at the door, covering himself with a blanket. The next day and after they went slowly on, talking about different things. On the last day, Miles talked about his older father and his brother Arthur. He told the king many things which showed that they were very good people. He even said some kind words about Hugo. At last he cried out, "There is a village, my prince, and there is a Hall, and that wood there, that is my father's park." When they reached the end of the village, the travelers turned into a road. They went along it for half a mile, and saw a fine house before them. The next moment Miles took the king by the hand, and they entered the house. A few steps brought them into a large room. Miles asked the king to sit down, while he went over to a young man who was sitting at a writing table in front of fire. "Oh, kiss me, Hugo!" he cried, "and say you are glad that I have come back, and call our father, for home is not home till I see his face and hear his voice once more." But Hugo looked at him in great surprise, and said in soft voice, "You are mistaken, poor stranger. Whom are you taking me for?" "Taking you for? You are Hugo, my brother. And who do you imagine you are?" "I do not imagine anything. Do you want to pretend that you do not know me? I am your brother, Miles." "What? Can that be true? Can the dead come to life? Quick! Come to light. Let me see you better." He seized Miles by the arms, pushed him to the window, and began to turn him this way and that, looking at him attentively. "I am indeed your old Miles, your lost brother," Miles repeated. But Hugo said sadly, "Perhaps other eyes will see that what I cannot see. I fear the letter spoke the truth." "What letter?" "The letter that came some 6 or 7 years ago. It said my brother had died in battle." "Oh, it was a lie. Call your father. He will know me. I cannot call the dead." "Dead? My father is dead? Oh, this is a heavy blow. But let me see my brother Arthur. He will know me. He too is dead." "Do not say that my cousin, the lady Edith, is dead." "No, she lives." "Then hurry, brother. Let her come to me. She will know me. Bring her. Bring the old servants. They too will know me." "Only 5 of them are alive. The others have died too," said Hugo, leaving the room. "It is strange," thought Miles in deep frustration. Miles had quite forgotten the king, who was sitting quietly in the corner of the room. "Oh, my king, please wait, and you will see. The lady Edith, she will know me. I am telling the truth. I was born here. I know this old hall, this picture, and all the things that are around us. Believe me, my lord, believe me, even if nobody else does." "I believe you, and do you believe me when I tell you that I am the King of England?" Poor Miles got red, but before he could answer, the door opened and Hugo entered the room. A beautiful lady, richly dressed, followed Hugo. Several servants came after them. The lady walked slowly, with her head bowed and looking at the floor. Her face was very sad. Hugo said to the lady, "Look at him. Do you know him?" She slowly raised her head and looked into Miles' eyes with a frightened look. She got very pale and then said in a dead voice, "I do not know him." Then she turned and went out of the room. Miles sat down and covered his face with his hands. In a few minutes his brother said to the servants, "You have seen him. Do you know him?" They shook their heads. Then master turned to Miles and said, "The servants do not know you, sir. I'm afraid there's some mistake here. Even my wife does not know you." "Your wife? Oh, now I see it all. You have written this letter yourself and have stolen my bride. Go away, or I shall kill you, cruel man." With a red face, Hugo ordered the servants to seize the stranger, but one of them cried, "He is armed, sir, and we have no arms." "Go and arm yourself and guard the door," cried Hugo. I know that he will try to run away. Oh no, you can be sure I shall not run away, because I am master of Handenhall, and soon you will see it. The king sat thinking a few moments, then looked up and said, "It is strange, very strange. I can't understand it." "No, it is not strange at all. I know Hugo. He was always cruel." "Oh, I am not speaking of him, Sir Miles." "Not of him? What do you mean is strange?" "That nobody is looking for me, that no messengers are describing my person and looking for me." "True, my king, I have forgotten." And Miles thought, poor boy, he's still thinking he is a king. "I have a plan that will help us both. I shall write a letter in 3 languages, Latin, Greek, and English, and you will hurry with it to London in the morning. Give it to my uncle Lord Hertford. When he sees it, he will know that I wrote it. Then he will send for me. Will it not be better, your majesty, if we wait here a little longer? I shall get my rights, and then—" "Stop! Do what I am telling you to do." So he took a pen and began to write. Miles looked at him lovingly and said to himself, "When he is angry he looks like a true king. But what shall I do? Tomorrow he will send me away with this letter. I am sure he imagined that he knows foreign languages." Later the king handed him the written paper. Miles took it and put it in his pocket. Just at that moment some officers ran into the room and attacked Miles. A terrible struggle began, but Miles was soon seized and dragged away. The king was also taken, and both were led to prison. The 2 friends were put into a larger room. There were 20 prisoners, men and women. It was a noisy company. The king was very angry. Miles was silent and sad. They could not sleep that night. The prisoners were quarreling, fighting, and shouting. For a whole week the days and nights were just the same. Several times some servants sent by Sir Hugo came to look at Miles and laugh at him. At last a change came. One day an old man entered the room. When Miles looked at him, he said to himself, "This is Blake. He was servant in my house all his life, a good, kind man." When nobody was looking at them, the old man fell on his knees and said in a low voice, "Oh, you have come again, my master. I believe that you were dead, but I am so happy that you are alive. I knew you the moment I saw you. I am old and poor, but you can say only the word, and I shall go and tell the truth." "No," said Miles, "it will trouble you and helps me very little, but thank you for your kind words." The old servant became very useful to the friends, for he came several times a day and brought the food. Miles gave it all to the king, as the boy could not eat the prison food. Blake told Miles that Hugo had become a cruel master, whom everybody hated. Even his wife did not love him. Very soon after the marriage she found among her husband's papers several drafts of the letter, which said that Miles had been killed. Surely it was Hugo who had written this false letter. Once the king got interested in the older man's talk. People say that the king is mad, but to speak of it is prohibited. The King Henry will be buried at Windsor in a day or 2. The new king's coronations will take place at Westminster. I think they must find him first. The old man wanted to ask what little boy meant, but Miles interrupted him. "Will Sir Hugo go to the coronation?" "Yes, he will, for the Lord Protector likes him very much." "Who made him Lord Protector?" "He himself and the Lord Council, with the help of the king." "The king? What king? What is the matter with the boy?" The old man thought, but answered, "As we have only one king, it is clear, His Majesty King Edward. He is good little boy. I do not know whether he is mad bad or not. People say he grows better every day. Everybody loves him, for he has saved many lives, and now he wants to change some of the cruelest English laws. This news struck His Majesty. The good boy is a beggar boy, whom I have left dressed in my own clothes in the palace. Is it possible? Everybody could see that his manners and speech were different from the manners of the Prince of Wales. May it be somebody else? The king slept very badly that night. Among the prisoners there were two women who were very kind to Edward. He was very thankful to them and loved them with all his heart. He asked them why they were in prison, and when they said they were Baptists, he smiled and asked, "Is that a crime for which people have to be shut in prison? They will not keep you long for such a little thing." But the woman did not answer. "Tell me, what will they do to you? Will they beat you?" "No, they will not be so cruel. Say, they will not." One of the women said, crying, "Oh, do not think of us, dear boy. Then I understand. They will beat you. You must not cry. When I am the king again, I will change these cruel laws." When the king awoke in the morning, the women were absent. "They are saved, and soon I shall find you, my dear friends, and take care of you." Suddenly some officers came and ordered the prisoners to go to the prison court. In the court they were standing with their backs against the wall, and they were guarded by officers. Two women were standing in the center of the court. The king saw that they were his good friends. "Oh, they were not freed, and how strange it is that I, the king, can defend them against these cruel people." Then the king saw a terrible thing. Faggots were put around the woman, and a man lighted these faggots. The women bowed their heads and covered their faces with their hands. The fire began to climb up their clothes. Suddenly two young girls cried out and ran forward. They threw themselves upon the woman, but the officers dragged them away. They cried that they wanted to die with their mothers. One of them ran up to her mother again and threw herself on her mother's neck. She was torn away once more. 2 or 3 men held her, but she struggled to free herself and cried, "I shall be quite alone in the world now." The two girls cried all the time and struggled to get free. Suddenly other more terrible cries were heard. These were the cries of the dying mothers. The king looked from the girls to the woman, then turned away and did not look any more. He was very pale and said, "I shall never forget what I have seen in this one little moment. I shall see it all the days of my life and dream of it every night till I die." That same day several new prisoners were brought in. The king spoke to them. One of the prisoners was a poor woman who had stolen a small piece of cloth. Another was a man who had killed a deer in the king's park. They were sentenced to be hanged for it. There was also an old man who had written a pamphlet against the Lord Protector, and had been cruelly punished for it. His ears were cut off, and he was sentenced to stay in prison all his life. The king's eyes burned with anger. He said, "Nobody believes in me, but it does not matter. In a month you will be free, all of you. I shall change the laws that bring shame on England. The world is made wrong. I am going to do my best." The day of trial came. Miles was sentenced to sit 2 hours in the stocks for attacking the master of Hendon Hall. The king was not sentenced only because he was too young. When he came to the square with other people, he saw his friend. He was sitting in the stocks, and the crowd was laughing at him. The king got so angry that he did not know what he was doing. He ran up to the officer standing near and shouted, "He is my servant! Let him go at once! I am—" "Silence!" cried Miles. "Do not pay any attention to him, officer. He is mad." "All right, I shall not pay any attention to his foolish words, but I want to teach him a good lesson for saying them." He turned to a soldier and said to him, "Give him a few lashes and he will change his manners." The king did not even move when the soldier seized him. He understood that there was no help for him, but Miles said to them, "Let the child go. I will take his lashes. Let him go. Do you not see how young he is?" "You will take it? Very well." So Miles was taken out of the stocks, his jacket was taken off, and he was beaten with a lash. King Edward stood with his back turned to Miles, because he was afraid. After all, Miles was freed, and Edward were ordered to leave the town at once. "What shall I do? Where shall we go? Where can I find the help? Maybe the best thing to do will be to go to London and speak to the young king." He turned to Edward and said, "I have forgotten to ask your majesty where we shall go now." "Your command, sir." "To London." So they started to London, and about 10 o'clock on the night of 8th of February they came to London Bridge. They found themselves in a crowd of drunken people. They were already beginning to celebrate the coronation day, the 20th of February. Everybody shouted and sang and danced. Some drunken men started a fight, and soon Miles and the king lost each other in the huge crowd. In old England, a rich procession always took place before the coronation of a new king, and so on the morning of the 20th of February, Tom, richly clothed and on a beautiful white horse, led the procession. Great lords, also on horses, followed him. From time to time a cry rose from the watching crowd, "Long live Edward, King of England!" And then Tom threw bright new coins into the crowd. The great procession moved on and on. Suddenly Tom saw the pale, surprised face of a woman in the crowd. It was his mother. Tom quickly covered his eyes with the back of his hand, his usual gesture when he was surprised or frightened. In a moment she had pushed her way through the crowd and was at his side. She took his foot in her hands. She covered it with kisses. She cried, "Oh, my dear child, Tom, my dear child, I do not know you, woman." That same moment an officer of the king's guard catched her and dragged away from Tom's horse. Next moment she disappeared in the crowd. Tom's heart was full of shame and sadness, and he moved on in silence. He neither saw nor heard anything. He just moved on with bowed head and sad eyes, seeing nothing but mother's face. "Long live Edward the Sixth! Long live Edward the Sixth!" But Tom did not find any pleasure in hearing these cries. Little by little people began to notice the change in him. Lord Protector also noticed it. He came up to Tom's horse, took off his hat and said softly, "Sir, you must not dream now. The people notice your sadness. Lift up your face and smile upon the people." Tom tried, but his smile had no heart in it. His mother's sad face was before him. He remembered the words he said to her. His uncle, the Lord Protector, said to him again, "Your Majesty, the eyes of the world are upon you. What makes you so sad? Is it possible that it was the dirty woman?" Tom turned to him and said in a dead voice, "She was my mother." Oh, he is mad again. When the coronation procession was over, people filled with the Westminster Abbey to watch the coronation ceremony. Great lords and ladies, richly clothed, gathered in the abbey, waiting for the young king. At a signal, the sounds of the hundreds horns and drums filled the abbey, and Tom, clothed in a beautiful long mantle, appeared in the door. He was led to the throne, which stood on a platform, and the ceremony began. At last the Bishop of Canterbury lifted lifted up the crown of England and held it over the head of Tom. The boy was trembling and got pale. Suddenly, something strange happened. A boy came up to the platform. He raised his hand and said loudly, "Do not put the crown of England on him. I am the king." In a moment, several hands pushed the lad away from the place, but Tom jumped towards him and cried out in a ringing voice, "Do not touch him. He is the king." Surprise and panic made the people rise from their places and look attentively at the two boys. Everybody noticed that they looked very much alike, but the Lord Protector said, "Pay no attention to the words of His Majesty. He is ill again. Guard, take the beggar." But Tom stepped forward and cried out, "Do not touch him. He is a king." Silence fell upon the hall. No one moved, no one spoke, and no one knew what to do or what to say. The boy climbed the platform, and Tom ran with a glad face to meet him. He fell on his knees before him and said, "Oh, my lord, the king!" The Lord Protector's eyes fell upon the stranger's face, and he also noticed what the others had noticed before. The boy looked alike. He thought a moment or two, then said, "If you please, sir, I should like to ask you a few questions." "I will answer them, my lord." So the Lord Protector asked him many questions about the king, the prince and princesses, the sovereigns, and the palace. The lad answered all of them. He described the king's rooms and the rooms of the prince. It seemed very strange, but the Lord Protector shook his head and said, "It is all true. Everything is right. He knows it all perfectly, but he does not know more than our Lord the King can know." He still called Tom king, and this made Tom very sad. Tom was losing all hope of returning home. The Lord Protector thought for some time, then he turned to the stranger with main question, "Where does the Great Seal lie? If you can answer this, the matter will be decided, for only the true Prince of Wales knows." "It is not difficult to answer this question. Go to my cabinet in the palace, and in the left-hand wall you will find a nail head. Press upon it, and the wall will open a little. The Great Seal is the first thing you can see in the opening. Bring it here." Tom looked at Lord Steward and said, "Why do you not go? Have you not heard the king's command? Go!" So Lord Sovereign bowed and left. In a few minutes he returned and said, "Sir, the Great Seal is not there. Now everything is clear." "Throw the beggar into the street," cried Lord Protector, "and give him a good whipping." Officers of the guard moved towards Edward, but Tom shouted to them, "Back! Those who touch him will die." The Lord Protector thoughtfully said, "How could the Great Seal of England disappear? Such a heavy golden thing." At that moment Tom understood everything. "Oh, I have got it!" he cried out. "Was it round and thick and had its letters cut upon it? Now I know where it lies, but it was not I who put it there first. He stands here, the true King of England, and he will tell you himself where it lies. Believe him, please." Then Tom turned to the king and spoke only to him. "Think, my king, try to think well. It was the last thing you did before you ran out of the cabinet to punish the soldier who had bruised me." Everybody looked at the boy, who stood with bowed head thinking hard. At last he lifted his head, shook it slowly, and said in a trembling voice, "I do not remember where I put it." "Oh, my king!" cried Tom in panic. "Think! Try to remember. We talked. I told you of my sisters, and I told you about the games. You must remember these things. Listen to me, and you will remember everything. Then we changed clothes before a large mirror, and we were surprised to see that we so much alike. Then you noticed that the soldier had bruised my hand. Your Majesty got very angry and ran towards the door to punish the cruel man. You passed a table and took it from the table. You looked around as if you wanted to find a place to hide it. Then—" "Enough!" cried the king. "Just I remember now. The Great Seal is in the armpiece of the armor that hangs on the wall." "Right, my king! king, ride! Now the throne of England is your own. Lord Steward, hurry up and get out the great seal of the old armor." When Lord Steward appeared holding the great seal in his hand, a shout went up, "Long live the true king! Long live the true king!" When the shout died down, the Lord Protector said, "The false king must be thrown in prison." But the new king said, "No, he will not. He is not guilty." Then he turned to the boy and asked him, "How could you remember where I had hidden the great seal? I could not remember it myself." "Oh, my king, that was very easy, because I used it many times." "Oh, unbelievable! He used the great seal," remarked Lord Protector, "but you could not tell us where it was." "When they asked about it, I did not know what they wanted. I did not know that this thing was the great seal. They did not say what it was like, your majesty." "Then how did you use it?" Tom's face got very red, and he stood silent. "Speak up, good lad, and fear nothing," said the king. "How did you use the great seal of England?" "I cratched nuts with it." For hours and hours Miles walked the streets of London looking for Edward. The night passed, and he was still looking for his little friend. At last he found himself near Westminster Palace. He decided to go to the palace and try to find there Sir Marlowe, an old friend of his father. Suddenly the weeping boy passed him. Seeing Miles, he said to himself, "I am sure this one is the man that His Majesty wants to find so much. I must speak to him." Noticing a strong interest in the boy's eyes, Miles went to him and said, "You have just come out of the palace. Do you know Sir Marlowe?" The boy said to himself in surprise, "What, my dead father?" Then he answered aloud, "Yes, I do. Will you ask him to come out for a minute to talk to me?" "With pleasure. Wait a little, good sir." Soon the boy came out, but he was not alone. An officer of the king's guard followed in a great hurry. When he came up to Miles, he looked attentively at him. Then he said very politely, "If you please, sir, follow me to the palace. I will guide you to the place." Miles was amazed, but he admitted the invitation obediently. Soon he was led to a great hall full of richly dressed lords and ladies. The young king was sitting on the throne and speaking to a Lord Protector. The next moment the king raised his head and Miles saw his face. "What is this?" the thought struck him. The king of Kingdom of Dreams on his throne! Miles watched the king carefully and said to himself, "I cannot believe. What is going on? Is it true or is it dream? Maybe I am sleeping now." Then suddenly a happy thought came to him. He took up a chair, put it noisily over shiny floor, and sat down on it. At once several hands were laid upon him, and a voice cried out, "Stand up, you fool! How dare you sit in the presence of the king?" The king heard the noise and raised his head. Then held out his hand and said, "Do not touch him. It is his right to sit in the presence of the king." Then he went on, "Ladies, lords, and gentlemen, you must know that this man is my true servant, Miles, who has saved his prince from possible death. For this he is a lord now, and I shall give him much gold. He, as well as his children and grandchildren, will also have right to sit in the presence of the king of England." At that time 2 persons who had come from the country only during that morning and had been in the hall only 10 minutes stood listening these words. They looked in surprise at the king, then at Miles, then at king again, trying to understand something. They were Sir Hugo and Lady Edith. When the king saw Sir Hugo standing in a deep perplexity, he said loudly, for everybody can hear, "This man is a thief. He has stolen the riches and the title of Miles, his older brother and my good servant. Throw him into prison. Put his hands and legs in chains." Scared, Sir Hugo could say nothing. Immediately he was led away. Then Tom appeared. He came up to the king and fell upon one knee before him. The king said, "I know the story of these past weeks. I am well pleased with you, because what happened was not your fault. More than that, it was clever of you to help me when Lord Protector gave me a trial." King looked at Lord Protector with a smile on his face, but the face of the Lord Protector got pale and he bowed his head in shame. "I am going to reward you. Have you found your mother and your sisters?" "Yes, sir." "Good. I shall take care of them. They will not suffer from hunger and beating any more. They will have all they need." Tom, proud and happy, rose and kissed the king's hand. Then he hurried to his mother and sisters to tell them the good news.